to the BOREDinDE podcast, and now with your hosts, Uncle Tuck and G-Jones.
What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Tuck here. Got Jarrell here, and I got our special guest, Melissa L. Carr. Melissa, how you doing, dear?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Tucker?
Good, good. Now, for the people that's on the podcast, they may not be familiar with all our guests, so I take a moment and want the guests to kind of like tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and everything like that. So go ahead, and if you can share a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. So, first and foremost, Tucker, I want to thank you and Jarrell for having me here today. And
Yeah.
of course, you said my name. I'm Melissa Carr, and I currently reside in. I've actually spent the last 40 some years in Delaware. I'm currently a resident of Newcastle County. I was born and raised down in Lower Delaware, but like I said, I spent about 20 plus years here in the Newcastle County area.
Okay.
And I am a published author. Yay!
That's what's up.
So
Congratulations.
thank you very much. And so I add that entrepreneur title to my title because I'm actually, this has become a business for me.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure. So my book is called Transforming Trauma: How You Can Turn Your Pain into Power. And a lot of times people are like, trauma and power, how do you do that? How can you transform trauma into power? And that's where I dig a little deep into my book, and because of the stigma around trauma and people getting stuck in trauma, thinking that the world is over once you experience, because of course trauma is inevitable. We're all going to go through some sort of trauma in our lives. What it may look different, but we all will go through it. So in my book, I share my toolkit of how my personal story, and then I also share stories of other individuals just like you and I that have gone
Mhm.
through health issues, divorce, death by suicide, and just share their stories and how they've come out on the other side of that trauma. And like I said, primarily with me, what makes my book unique is because myself as the author, I share my own personal story, my own personal experience, and what I did to help me push forward to get to the other side and not get stuck in that trauma.
Okay, great. Wow. Now, prior to your book, did you ever think that you'd be sharing your trauma in order to help others?
Absolutely not. I'm going to be totally honest with you here. Absolutely not, because I'm very private person. So I've always kept my personal business personal. That's the way I thought. But I've always been someone that have always had a passion for helping people. So no wonder God told me how to put this together and go ahead and share my story and how I could help other people. And how I did that was I had to become vulnerable. So I made myself a little vulnerable and to share with people, because let people see, because a lot of times people look at you and say, what do you mean you're going through something? You don't look like what you're going through. And thank God I don't look like what I'm going through, because every single day I do go through, right? However, like I like to talk about in my book and my toolkit of how what I did to help me come up out of that dark space. So to answer that question, no, absolutely not. I'll say it again. No, absolutely not.
Now, at what stage did you realize you wanted to become an author, or did that did it just happen?
So I tell you, I'll share this with you.
Hmm.
I've never had a desire to write a book ever.
Really?
And in fact, I'm not even an avid reader. I don't read. I've read a lot more now because I had to do a lot of research to
Hmm.
put that book out there to the world. So it required me to do a lot of research,
Hmm.
but I never had a desire. It was what happened was about in 2019, the summer of 2019 to be exact, I was spending a lot of time sitting out on my deck, just thinking. And you know how when you get still, sometimes God will get you still, and that's what He did to me in April 2019. He got me still. He sat me down, and when I say He sat me down and got me still, basically what happened was is I became disabled, and so that meant being disabled, I was not able to work. After
Yeah.
working for 19 years for a Fortune 500 corporation, I was no longer able to work. So, with that being said, as I'm sitting there, he whispered to me, literally. I mean, God speaks to us, and sometimes we don't listen. But in this case, I did listen, and I'm so glad I did. But he spoke to me at the time saying, I want you to help my people. And I didn't quite understand what that meant at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
then an idea of book, because I was sitting there always documenting my journey. I encourage anyone, document your journey, because that's what I was doing. And that was a very helpful for me. I documented my journey, still not knowing where I was going, but I was documenting. And when I say documenting, just simple making notes. So, because a lot of times when we say documenting, that seems like a big word. I was just
Right.
making notes, putting notes in my phone, and in my journals, just making notes of different things as the days would go by. And from that experience there, once he told me, I thought, well, I have no clue of how I'm going to do this. I don't know how to write a book. I don't even know where to get started. And it was December of, no, I'm sorry, January of 2021 that I encountered a family friend
Mm-hmm.
named Debbie, who she actually introduced me to someone that went through a book creators program. And she introduced me to Jocelyn, who had just published her own book the prior year, The Power of the Black Vote. And so she said she wanted to pay it forward. So, hey, if you're really serious about it, let me connect you with her. So we got connected, and that's how the journey started. But I had no intentions of writing a book, never had.
Wow. And now look at you. You're a published author. But let me ask you, are you self-published or are you self-published, or did you went through a publishing company? And how hard was it to get to that point of being published?
Yeah, so I get really excited about this because I'm not self-published. I went
Mm-hmm.
through a publishing company, and like I was mentioning, Jocelyn, who introduced me, I had to basically, go through an interview with the professor. He actually is a professor from Georgetown University. His name is Professor Eric Custer. I went through his book creators class, so I interviewed with him. Once I did that interview, I was accepted into the program. So I went through the program. It's about 11 weeks of, his instructions of technique and structure, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And for me, that's exactly what I needed, was structure, because in the summer of 2019, when I knew that I wanted to write a book, didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how I was going to do it. One of my girlfriends, she was trying to help me. She gave me a book. Well, I need structure, and I knew that I needed structure. I'm a very structured person. So the class was amazing. It was a book creators class, which then in turn partnered us with New Degree Press, which is a publishing company. So
Mm-hmm.
I was partnered with that publishing company after I went through my writing experience. And I'll tell you, to get into the program, like once you interviewed, and you had to apply yourself, because writing a book is not an easy task. Just like they say, and I don't mean to sound cliche, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It
Right.
is not an easy task, but what it does require, but you can do it, as you can see, months later in the same year, I am a published author. But what it required was determination, and basically, I just had a passion, and I had a passion to tell my story. I had a story to tell, and I had a passion to tell that story. So that helped me, along with the structure and using techniques. So Professor Custer, he provided the techniques in this program. You had to pick up, and pick up where however you picked up. So for me, I was having a challenge in the beginning, because, like I said, it's no easy task. I was having a challenge because I was like, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not picking up here. So I started writing in topics, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
teaching, in different stories, because we write stories and we bring them together, right? So I was like, okay, well, I started writing in topics. So I had all these self-help topics in mind that I wanted to use, and I wanted to, put in the book. So I started writing in topics, which unbeknownst to me later would turn into my chapters. And I just had to flesh them out. So that it was all God. I'm telling you, it was all God, because he just basically he told me, be obedient, follow his instructions. He placed me in that class, because I didn't share this part, but I was 3 weeks behind, because it had already started by the
Mm-hmm.
time I learned about it. But I was still accepted in, I was able to catch up and move forward. And then, like I said, it was all God's, his steps. He was ordering my steps for me. And it was, and to answer your question about the content,
Mm-hmm.
basically, like I said, I was documenting. That's why I shared earlier on, it's very important to document your journey, because I did a lot on social media, especially Facebook. So I even had a private Facebook group and I was
Hmm.
documenting there. I was creating videos, didn't know why, but I was just doing all these things. So I was able to in turn use that content for the content in my book.
Okay, cool, cool.
I have a
And
quick question because I'm just curious.
Sure.
Between finding the structure and the technical piece of writing versus the vulnerable piece of actually cutting yourself and kind of really kind of getting into the grit of you, which one was more difficult, right? Just because you're embarking in something different with writing a book, something completely new. On the other side, you're pouring your heart out, right? So which was harder for you? Which was more
Right.
difficult?
So that's a great question, Jarrell, and it's very important to share here too, because in order for me to pour my heart out, I had to make sure that I was healed, right? So I couldn't just walk into this writing journey without being healed. So that's why I say everything came at a perfect time, because all the work that I share, the toolkit that I share, I was doing all this work leading up to me writing this book. Again, didn't know I was writing a book, but I was putting in the work to help me, to take care of me, because that was what was most important to me. So to answer that, once I started writing, yes, there was a time that there were triggers, things that I would write that would set off a trigger, because trauma is in there. You're going to have triggers that are induced by your trauma, right?
right.
So what those things happen, but it was more of like victory to me than being in that dark space of where I was when it first happened to me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So did I fully answer your question?
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
Okay.
Just because when I wrote my book, you go through a lot of the same things while tapping into yourself, right? And you do have to be kind
Yes,
of already fully healed, like you said, to be able to convey the message clearly without it getting stuck in your head. So you have to already have worked through some things to get it, which to me, it's not as hard to pour it out until like once you get past that part, right? Because you'll start looking at it
that's
like,
right.
man, how am I going to do this? You start questioning, so how's it going
That's
to
right.
go? I don't even know. And then you start pouring it, and it's like, you know what? I'm good with this. This is the point. This is the message.
That's right.
Get to the good part.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also to add to that, Jarrell, for the audience, out here, it's very therapeutic. It was therapeutic, even though the triggers would come up. It was still therapeutic, and it was also a reminder to me, like I'm really feeling good. I'm feeling good because I'm able to do this. Because there was a time that I couldn't do those things. I couldn't write out. I couldn't even stand the sight of certain things, or the anything that would trigger me would, I would feel like a pit in my stomach emotionally. I mean, I'm not going to say I would, break out into tears, but I would feel emotional on the inside. So yeah, so it was very, very therapeutic in the writing journey as well.
Word. Yeah, man. Because I'm glad Jarrell took the helm on that because, like, I'm a reader. I'm not an author, at least not yet. Jarrell thinks somewhere down the line I'll become one. With all the stuff I've been through and everything. But speaking of stuff that you've been
Absolutely.
through, was there any particular issue that happened to you that you just knew had to be in the book? This had to be in the book.
Yes. So this took me a while. In fact, this is probably going to be the first time I've actually shared it through my verbally through my journey of like podcast or any type of interview. But yes, so a lot of times people, I think I kind of mentioned this, but people look at you like, you just live a perfect life that, but there's no such thing as a perfect life, right? We
Right.
all go through trials and tribulations, right? So
Yes,
when
indeed.
people look at me, a lot of times I get it all the time. People they stereotype, or you don't look like. What do you mean? Or they think that nothing's wrong with you because you don't look like it. Like what is it? What is that supposed to look like? What is trauma supposed to look like, right? So with that being said, I shared my actual what happened to me that got me to this place to writing a book. And basically, I'll share I worked for a Fortune 500 corporation. I was in corporate America, and I went out on a medical leave, so an approved medical leave, so I was on short-term disability. And while I was out just a little under 5 months, just a little over 4 months I was out, and I was preparing myself for surgery because that was what was going to get me better. At least that's what the doctors told me.
Hmm.
At least I would get to a place where I could get back the quality of my life. and get back to my job because I love my job so much. So that's what I was aiming to do, right? So
Right.
I had to draw that out because a lot of times people get caught up into things and we forget about ourselves, right? So I was
Right.
forgetting about me. I was more so concerned about getting back to the job. When in turn, within a couple weeks after I made the decision of getting my surgery, I received a letter at home from my job basically firing me
Ooh.
because I was not able to get back to work in a timely manner, right? So just imagine that devastation, humiliation, because I worked for this corporation for 19 years, never, never a problem employee, no attendance issues. I was a rising star. I was a Circle of Success nominated employee, and I name all those things not to boast or anything, but to let you know that it doesn't matter who you are. Trauma doesn't have a respective person. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter but what does matter is that you know and I want to help you in my book because that's why this was very important to get into my book, to let people see all the accolades that I just kind of mentioned, and that's not even all of them, but there's more listed in the book, but just to name them, to see that it doesn't matter. So you you have to be able to have a work life balance. I didn't my job was my life. I didn't
Right.
have a balance. I The job needed me, right? And in so many words I've been told that they needed me, right? So in my mind, mentally, they needed me, so I needed to get back to work to get to this job. Whereas, like I said, at the end of the day, guess what? I was no longer any good. My last day work was my last day worked. I was fired by the company. So it's important for me to get that out to people to see that it's important to take care of yourself. At the end of the day, you must take care of yourself because had I taken better care of myself, I wouldn't have been in the possibly wouldn't have been in the medical situation that I'm in.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy, and I could definitely attest to that. That you know, you have to find your worth, and you have to find that work life balance is imperative because these companies will replace you at a drop of a dime, no matter how many plaques, awards, certificates, trips, or whatever they put you on, or how much pizza they feed you. You are
That's
replaceable.
right.
You are definitely
That's
replaceable.
right.
Jarrell laughing because I threw that pizza remark in there. He's like, "You always got to throw
Yeah,
that pizza in
listen,
there."
we all know the times when listen, you wasn't gonna go, or it wasn't that, or you shouldn't have been. That's what it
Hmm.
was, right? You shouldn't have did that little bit of extra overtime or being salary.
Hmm.
You well over your 40. You probably at like 60 to 80. 80, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? But you know what? We're gonna go ahead and get some pizza today. We're gonna settle it down. We're gonna do what we gotta do. So buckle on for the
That's
company.
right.
That company about business. Okay, that company is about business. That people talk
That's
sound
right.
all fine and dandy like free hugs. It
Hmm.
sounds warm and ooh, guess what? Nah. Business. Okay,
Business.
and if other things they feel like might not be, then you can go. I don't care how good you are, how nice you are. You could be the greatest employee in the world. Bye bye. Okay,
Absolutely.
and that's you gotta take care of you. That's all
Absolutely.
that is.
And at the end of the day, I mean, and like I said, I mean, I'm proof. When I share my story, it's in the story. It does not matter, and it just does not matter. It's
Mhm.
there. It's in my book, Transforming Trauma: How You Can Turn Your Pain into Power.
Wow. Now let me ask this: your book's been out for a while now. What kind of feedback you been getting on this? I mean, I'm quite sure a lot of people could relate to it because, like I said, we all have had some sort of trauma. But for you to share your situations to help inspire people to get them to that next level, I know somebody has to give you some good feedback on this.
Yes, actually, the feedback has been amazing. I published on December 20th of 2021, so that was my publication date, and that's the date it went up and onto Amazon. And I've been getting amazing feedback, and a lot of the feedback has been kind of what you said. It's relatable. I was fully transparent, and that made the reader feel like they were being, that they were able to relate because I was being very transparent. It made it easy for them to read and understand and see it from another person's perspective and see that, oh, okay, I can do this too. So that was amazing to hear those different things. And also I can give you some examples because I have like at least about now, like I said, I published on the 20th of December of 2021, and I have about 12 reviews already, 5-star reviews on the book. So I'm going to give you a little snapshot of a couple that I have
Oh,
currently.
please do. Please
And
do.
sure, sure. So helpful, powerful, and a healing tool. This book is amazing from the very beginning. The author is very transparent, which makes it easier to take in the words of wisdom and encouragement to help us in our own journeys. You won't be disappointed. I'm looking forward to taking notes from this book to begin my true healing journey from traumatic experiences. Each page speaks volumes to me. I hope you all enjoy. I'd give this book a 10 if I could. Very good read for sure. Another one, Trauma to Triumph. And I love this because in my book, I think in the conclusion, I reference to this because that's the mission. Because in my book, you'll find that I have some reflection questions after each chapter and then a worksheet. So I want you to, once you start the journey is to come from trauma to triumph and feel like you can get to that place, because that's what I did. So
Right.
this comment actually from a reader, Trauma to Triumph. I absolutely love this book. Beautifully written. This book gives personal views on different traumas and how they persevered. I also loved seeing the scriptures and data to research more on certain topics. Everyone needs a copy of this book. Everyone experiences trauma. I love you, Melissa Carr.
Wow.
And then here's a third one. This is a must read, bestseller. Wow. This one says the book was well written in a very down to earth and relatable style. It provides an enlightening perspective on life, circumstance, and how we choose to react to it. The author does a great job at painting an everyday portrait, yet showing you a fresh perspective through colorful, sometimes comical, but always thought provoking examples, analogies, and stories. I would definitely recommend this book to any and everyone. We all have been through something and we can benefit from a new way of viewing situations. So those
Wow.
were directly from Amazon from readers.
Wow. That's seemed like, you sharing your personal pain and trauma in the book, many have taken away from that on a positive note and perhaps find a way to deal with their, issues in their life and everything. So that's what's up. I mean, I I'm not a private person, so I wouldn't have a problem sharing my shit. But just with you being a private person, I'm like, yo, that had to be a massive taking to do because. Like I say, I ain't got no problem. I mean, sometimes your relatives sit there and be like, "Yo, bro, just let them be great." Just don't. But yeah, like from those reviews alone, wow, it seemed like you really touched a lot of people with your book and everything. How does that make you feel?
So I feel I'm going to be honest with you. The most rewarding, the entire journey, it was like a roller coaster ride. It was exciting. I was nervous, and Professor Cusser he would refer to it as nervited. So nervous,
Mm,
excited, and that's how it was up and down. It was a roller coaster right through the entire journey.
mm-hmm.
So the most rewarding part to me was to actually, once I published, people that actually read that book and gave me their feedback. That was what was like. I got so overwhelmed because I'll share even maybe like a month leading up to publishing. I told my mother, I was like, Mom, I was like, it's no big deal. Like I wrote a book. It's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother had to remind me. She said, no, it is a big deal. I was like, you know what? You're right. It is. It is a big deal because I didn't have to, I could have started and stopped because how many times do we hear people that say they started and stopped writing? They've been writing for years and they never finish? So
All the
I
time.
said, okay, you know what? But, yes, but the most rewarding to me was when I started getting feedback, when people, when reviews showed up and I didn't even know they were going to show up. That was like, it would give me goosebumps and I would be so excited and I would actually go and share them out to social media just
Mm,
to, and also personally thank the individual for, you know, um, dropping that review.
wow, man.
So the interesting part about you saying that, right? Because now for me, very similar situation. When I wrote my book, my intent wasn't to write a book. I didn't like that. Wasn't just the purpose for it. Like it was like, yeah, I'm writing a book, I'm putting it out there. That's a part of the journey. That is not the journey, right? Similar to when you like it's about helping people. So the book is done, and you're just like, all right, book is done. I did this part. The pizzazz that people, I guess, think you feel, you really don't feel until you're reading reviews or when people talk about how you help them. And you're like, wait, it hit? Oh, it hit you. Oh, okay.
Right,
I made
right,
you a better person.
right.
What, me?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yep. Yep. And and it's that the impact, because I always say my motto is I love to encourage, inspire, and empower people. So to get that feedback, it's like my job is done. At least even if it was just one person, my job is done. The mission that God sent me on, I met the assignment.
Now, I wanted to ask this before we go and everything. Like, how important is the message of self empowerment and mental health to you that you had to put your personal experiences in the book? Because among our community, mental health, they're just now starting to talk about it, and people are now starting to address it. And you addressed it in your book, and people are receptive to it and everything. Like, was that really important for you to have that in the book?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that question because the reason that it was very important to me is because, kind of on the lines of what you just said, I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 this year, right? So growing up in our community, we don't. That was like a bad word, mental health. That was a bad word, right? Unfortunately, and like you said, just now recently because of the pandemic, it's more talked about. There's still a stigma around it, but I think the more we put out things like this, we talk about it, my book, that those toolkits, I think the more people will receive it. And we
Mm-hmm.
take out that negative connotation because it has, when you say mental health, that negative connotation that we had growing up, we take that away and we stop looking at it as negative and we look at it as positive because mental health it just simply means that you're taking care of your physical, your mental and your psychological well-being, right?
Right.
So that's what you're doing. So and to be able to take care of it yourself, be self-empowered to be able to find tools, learn, grow, and through these experiences to help you get better, because you may have had a trauma. Trauma will do this to you.
Certainly will.
It's an emotional thing. Trauma is anything that caused you pain, right? So in turn, that pain caused you to feel a little anxiety, a little emotional sometimes when you wouldn't normally feel that way, right? So,
Right.
like I said, if we look at it as a positive and it's a mindset thing, we have to train the brain to rethink how we talk about it. And the
Mm-hmm.
more we do it that way, it doesn't come off as a negative connotation. And I think, and isn't it like, wouldn't it be so cool to be able to help yourself? Like, if you can't do it from the toolkit that I offer, because everything's not one size fit all. So
Right.
if it doesn't work, at least you tried it. You may need to seek counseling because I did, and that's something I had to share. I wasn't comfortable talking about it before. I kept
Mm-hmm.
it a secret. My mother didn't even know. Okay, but eventually, and the reason I sought counseling was because I just needed a third party person to talk to me about what was happening to me right when it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Before that job fired me, I knew something was happening. So it was causing me to be anxious. And I couldn't talk about it to anyone because I was embarrassed. But I didn't do anything wrong, right? I didn't do
Right.
anything wrong, but this is what trauma will do to you. So I was just embarrassed about it. I don't want to talk about it. So I went to talk to someone that didn't know me. And that's all I did. I talked to that person because they didn't. And to be honest, and this I share this in the book as well, that individual, that counselor really wasn't good for me because that's important too. When you do seek a counselor, that you seek someone that can relate to you as an
Mm-hmm.
individual, your culture, whatever. You need to make sure that when you do that. But what he did serve as a listening person. That's all I needed. I didn't need anyone to tell me, oh, don't jump off the ledge, because that wasn't about to happen. It's
Right.
just I needed someone to hear me. hear me and hear me talk about what I felt was happening to me. And I'll share this with that part. When I received that letter, because that's all I received was a letter from that corporation
Right.
firing me. I had an appointment with the counselor like 2 days later. I took that letter in and I placed it on his desk and let him read it because I was like, I told you, I knew something was happening. And guess what? I never went back a day since. Because why? I did not saying that I would never go because I would if I need to, but I didn't need to at that because that I was satisfied with now the pressure, the weight was lifted off of me. So
Right.
that's why I say it's very important to care for yourself. If you are feeling some way, because only you know how you feel, only you know your emotions, can't no one tell you otherwise. You don't allow people to say, oh, no, you're just tripping. Oh, you need to calm down. No, don't accept that. When those people come in your space and speaking like that, you remove them. You set your own boundaries. And because that's a part of the problem. That's a part of why we don't want to go to a counselor because of that connotation, that stigma, that people. And a lot of times people can't handle your stuff, right? So they will push you off, and say that because they can't handle it. So
Right.
they'll say, oh, you're just tripping. They don't know how to help you. They don't really mean any harm, but they're doing more harm, but they don't mean it, right?
Right.
Because they can't handle your heaviness. So I say, and the end of your question, that's why, and you see, I got very passionate about that, right?
Oh
I got
yeah,
very
yeah.
passionate about that self-empowerment and that mental health because it's very important. And that's how you take care of you. That's how I fixed me. That's how I came up out of that space that I was in for that temporary time. I got up out of it. And now, like I said, today, I can talk about it. Before, I couldn't
Right.
talk about it. Today, I can talk about it. And it's because I took care of me.
You got to. You got to. And I'm glad that people like yourself and even Jarrell with, his book of poetry takes you down a lane that you may not had visualized. 'Cause like being friends to both of you, I wouldn't imagine any of the circumstances that you shared through your writing was something that you were going through. You know, you guys, hit it well, but when you come across, your book and, you know, Jarrell's book of poetry and stuff like that, it's comforting to know that you're not the only one going through something and somebody out there understands you and everything. And I thought that
Yes.
was that was very, very important. And you know, I salute you guys for, bearing your souls pretty much, bearing your souls on some pages for an absolute stranger to find their way through and everything. So,
Listen,
That's that's
the
it.
world will make you a handsome slave. You'll be a gorgeous slave, working hard. They don't even know what. Listen, you look so good for this. Yeah, I'm a handsome slave. Busting my behind. They
Right.
don't know.
Right.
They can't tell.
Right. 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 And Tucker, I love what you just said about, people like letting them know they're not alone. And that's something I share in my story as well. You're not alone. There is hope. And that's what I want them to see because my story shows what I went through and what I'm going through. But
right,
look at me, there is hope, right? And
right,
it's all in how we process it because I will always say there is purpose in your pain. You just
hmm
have to be willing to put in the work and find your purpose.
okay. So, what can we expect from you next, Melissa? I mean, I know the book just dropped, so you still, got some work to put in with that, and we need more hands to get, hands to grab onto that book and everything like that. But what's next for you? Do you see another book in the works, or maybe a career change, life coach, counseling, therapist yourself?
Yeah, so it's funny, Tucker, because right now, like you said, the book just published. My mission was to, you know, fulfill the assignment, which I did. I fulfilled the assignment. I wasn't looking to get rich off of writing a book because
hmm
that's not what the assignment was. The assignment was to write the book and help people, right? So
Right.
that's why I chose the lowest price points for my ebook and my paperback book on purpose. It was very intentional because it wasn't to get rich. It
hmm
was to help people. And when I say help people, I'm talking about the men as well. because a lot of times we forget the men. We think men don't need self-help, and they do.
Oh no, we need
So
it.
absolutely, absolutely, and we tend to forget. And so my book will help both audience, the adult man and woman, right?
Right.
So going for me next, I mean, I've been doing some interviews. This is my first podcast. I had a prior interview as well, with Power Up for Success, with Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Marcy Bryant, and just continuing to, just wait it out and see where God leads me, because I do have to see where He leads me, right? Because I
Right.
can have all kinds of thoughts. Just like I worked for that corporation for 19 years, I thought that was it, right?
Right.
And it wasn't. So I have to listen to see where God sends me and what His purpose is for me next in my life. I have dabbled a little bit. I hear a lot of times that about life coaching. That is something that I wanted to do when I was working at the corporation, but I never pursued it because I was busy, giving to the job, right,
Mm-hmm.
and not taking care of me. So I'll leave it with, I'm just, right now just waiting to see where God leads me. Wherever He leads me at, that's where I will be.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, you may not know this, but what we do at the end of every podcast, we definitely ask you to share your information where they could find, you know, for you your book and how they could reach you on social media and everything. But what we do, we have Jarrell close out the show with a, freestyle poem. But we need you to give him a word for that poem. It could be something that we talked about here. It could be something that you could just pull from the sky. But I just need you, after you share your information and how we can find you on social media and your website and everything like that, because the viewers of the video will see that information on the screen, the ticket at the bottom. I need the people that are going to hear the podcast to know how to find you and everything like that. So tell us how to find you. Tell us where your book's at, and then give Jarrell a word so he can go hard.
Okay. So first, you can find me on all the social media platforms. That's Facebook. That's Melissa Carr, and that's where you'll find me on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram is Melissa Carr as well, and LinkedIn. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. A lot of the updates, you can continue to follow me along on Facebook because that is my main platform. And again, that's under Melissa Carr. And Beyond Inspiration, you can find me when you search my name. If you see that Beyond Inspiration, that is me. Okay.
Okay.
My book, my ebook is on Amazon, and also my paperback book is on Amazon. So you can, and anywhere that you will be able to purchase books. So Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any of those locations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to ask you a question. Oh, and Melissa, let me just make sure. Melissa is spelled Melissa, and then last name Carr, Carr. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you search me on Amazon, you can search me under Melissa L. Carr, spelled the same way, Melissa L. Carr, or my book title, Transforming Trauma: How You Can Turn Your Pain into Power.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a question, Tucker, before I give Jarrell his assignment.
Sure.
Is it just one word, or can I have a little
Hey,
three words?
Jarrell, hey, you the one got spit it. You let her know.
I have no limitations. Okay,
Okay.
I'm open.
Okay. So what I was thinking, I was getting very creative, and I was thinking, since my book title is Transforming Trauma: How You Can Turn Your Pain into Power, how about we find something helping the audience understand that they can turn their pain into power?
Oh, he got
Okay.
that. He got that. He got that. G-Dash, you ready for that,
I know
man?
he does.
I am. All right. BOREDinDE podcast. Once again, welcome Melissa Carr. Phenomenal guest and interview. My man Tuck. Shouts out to BOREDinDE.com and DXDE.net. Check it out. Day by Day, Volume 1. That's the book for me. Now, Melissa Carr did a great interview, and the word that the phrase that she gave us was, transforming pain into trauma, because that's her book. So that's what I'm gonna go with another freestyle, or should I say improv poem, spoken word situation. So Tuck, I always laugh at you when I say this now, but now I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm thinking they told me that energy never dies. Well, surprise, surprise, it's always with you. Most that you can do is act like you don't see what's within you. But why deny what the mirror shows you? Because you were told to? Because they said that pain, you just tripping, you going insane. They use that craziness to try to say and take your bliss. I get it. You don't want me to be fixed. A lot of times, to be real, a lot of folks don't want you to heal. They don't know that your heart is sitting on ice, but they tell you to chill. They don't understand what you're walking through. They don't realize that in your brain, you got left versus right, and that's all you talking to. Fine. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm getting lost in this nonsense. Maybe it's my past. Maybe I have that guilty conscience. Maybe I think that I've, moved past it, but I really never looked at it. So how can I? How can I move forward in this same journey? How can I act like all those things that hurt me don't concern me? It's real easy to ignore it because we're afraid of our own flaws. It's real easy to act like, nah, there's no cause to pause. I don't need to stop. Life won't make me slow down, and you're lying to yourself right now. See, the only way to transform that trauma is to make sure that you acknowledge it and understand it and take the lessons from it. Otherwise, you'll be up all night stuck in that insomnia. Figuring out why me. Mad at the whole world and not understanding how you can take those steps. And sometimes you have to step softly. Sometimes you have to step calmly. Sometimes you have to listen to yourself. You have to inhale all the faith you can. Make sure that you're as patient as can be because, sorry, there aren't that many quick lessons. I'm just trying to give you this. This isn't even a quick confession. This is just me telling you one quick message. In order to transfer that pain into something you can grow from, is to understand yourself, to communicate with yourself, and to know that your mental health has to come first. If not only to you, well, you have to be that someone.
Whew. Okay,
You nailed it.
Playboy.
Okay,
Okay.
you nailed it. You nailed it.
Shoot, I'm,
You
I'm
understood
glad.
that
I'm glad I
assignment.
did
You
pour
did
me
it
something
well.
to drink. You know, I'm glad I did pour me something. Look, I throw the pinky out for you on that one, bro. That was good job. Good job, man. Good
Wait,
job.
let me grab a drink of water. Let me grab a sip of
Mm-hmm.
water over here.
Well, this ain't water. This is dark and Kool-Aid.
Dark and Kool-Aid.
But nah, real shit, Jamal. That was dope, man. That was dope. Melissa,
It
I
was.
can't thank you again for taking time out your schedule to sit down with us here at BOREDinDE. We appreciate you. We love you. What you're doing with the book is great work, and like you said, you're doing God's bidding, and you know those of us will follow through, and hopefully more and more people grab onto your book and get something from it, and just realize you're not alone. We all go through something. We may not wear it, but we all have gone through something and or possibly still going through something. So it's good to lean on, and for my brothers and sisters, it's nothing wrong with seeking counsel, therapy, talking to somebody. It's nothing wrong with that. I had to do it myself, and I, definitely being a child of the 70s, we were taught that men shouldn't be weak, men shouldn't have to, broadcast problems or discuss problems with other people, outside the household. But, therapy does help. And sometimes all you need is just that un, what's the word I'm looking for?
Unbiased.
Bias.
Unbiased ear. Yes. Yeah, see, I should have put that drink down. That's what that was, Had my thoughts a little blurry and everything. But yes, that unbiased ear can mean a lot. So with that,
Absolutely.
folks, I want to say thank you for tuning in. This is Tuck. You got my man Jarrell, and we got the beautiful Melissa Carr. And if you haven't already, definitely check us out at BOREDinDE. The website is www.boredinde.com. Social media, everything is BOREDinDE. And definitely, visit, Melissa Carr, author. We had that scrolling at the bottom so you can get information about her book. And we also got daybyday.net. That's what's up. Well, everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you for tuning in. From me, Jarrell, and our beautiful guest, Melissa. Peace.
Thank you for having me.
The BOREDinDE podcast is brought to you by Lindsay Epps Media, LLC.